how to investigate the Gemara in depth, we said we're going to travel down the road, starting from the source to the halacha. And the first thing that we're doing is looking at the Chumash itself and letting it tell us how to organize our thinking and our material. So in today's class, what I'd like to do is just give a little introduction to the idea of combining the Ramchal and the text. And then I'm going to throw it over to you, and we'll continue, organizing the text itself. It's very, very important. I call this little part of the course inside out. Why inside out? Because most people learn from the outside in, or I hate to say most, but a lot of people learn from the outside in. That means they read the Gemara and then they go look at the Mishnah and then they look at the Pesukim. But we're going the other way around because that's the way it was given. Kodesh Baruch Hu gave the whole Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he gave the text and all the understanding. And then Moshe Rabbeinu in last week's Parsha, in Mishpatim, was told that you have to explain to the people not only the text but the deep understanding, like a Shulchan Aruch. Very interesting. That's Rashi over there. So what we're going to do is look at the text alone, divide it up into case and law. That's the second thing that we were doing the last time. And then we're going to integrate the Ramchal's 24 aspects of subjects into the text and divide the text into its logical parts and then abstract it. And along the way we'll be looking at Rashi. Okay, so the first thing that we did, let's see if we can get that working. The first thing that we did was we took the text and we started dividing it, and you're going to get an opportunity to continue that, but I just want to, like what I usually like to do is show a roadmap of where we're going, and then we can understand our tachlis, our aim, and then we can do our activity till we get to the place. So we took the raw text and we started dividing it into case and law. You could say nosei and nasu is the same thing. It just so happens that our subject it happens to be a case, whether it's evidivri or whether it's someone murdering something else. And then there's a predicate or a law. In Tfunos, because he's labeling things the most broadest aspect, he calls about the nosei and the nasu. In Darkei Gemara, he says the nosei and mishpat, and that's really what we're dealing with when we're doing our analysis. In the end of the day, we want to know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do in this world, and it translates in terms of activities. So those activities represent a certain case, and then the law follows. So that was our first activity, and we're going to continue doing that. Then what I did was I just started labeling the subjects, okay, as we went through them. So the first thing that the Pasha spoke about was evidivri, and it spoke about the male, the evidivri, and then the female, the ama ivriya. And then it moved from that subject to the subject of a man murdering another man. And last week we discussed what was the relationship of the parts. Now these questions, by the way, are the questions that Meforshim ask. It's one of the basic things, is what is the relationship between the section you're dealing and the section that follows. Okay, so that was our first level of interacting with the text. Now the second level, oops, I'm sorry. Actually, the first level was the text itself, and then this division. Then what we're going to do in a few minutes is to go over the 24 aspects of the Ramchal, and then we're going to make a table like this. This is what I call the table of the logical actors. Whenever we have a case, the case is made up of people doing things, and those people are called actors. In the common language in actor, someone's on a stage. But what it means really, just someone that's doing a pula, someone's doing a activity. So a case is made up of someone, some animal, or something doing an activity. And that activity has a result. And then the Torah tells us what the law is when that result happens. Okay? Either you're supposed to do it, it's a mitzvah say to do it, or you're not supposed to do it, and then there's some punishment that follows. Okay, so here's our Eved Ivri, and we're going to break him up now in this table. Again, not what I'm trying to do here is let the Torah tell us how to organize itself. Okay, so I'm not moving the Pesukim around, because most of the Pesukim, quite amazingly, are very highly organized. So here in Eved Ivri, for instance, it said, Ki tikane Eved Ivri. Now, it doesn't tell us who is buying the Eved Ivri, right? So we always have to fill in who the poel is here. Okay, what do I mean the poel? Is it a man, a female, a Jew, a non-Jew? Who is this activity that who is the nose, the subject of this activity? Who's doing the activity? That's what I call the poel. Then there's
a animal or a machine in certain.
That's no, it could be anything. Here in these, it's ish, it's people or one person here, and there's many people. Excuse me.
It could be the wind. It could be the sun. Right? A poel.
It could be the wind. Yeah. It could be, exactly. We'll see. It could be a shore. It could be the wind, called the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ones, right? So we want to know who the poel is. That's a very important beginning activity. And we're going to see that if one of these elements are not there, that's going to be a sign of a Chiddush. It's a flag. And when we look at Rashi, he'll tell us who that person is and why it was either a specific person or not mentioned at all, or a categorical statement. So whatever it is, we always have to identify. Our first thing is to identify who is doing the act. Now that, remember, as we'll discuss, doesn't have to be, as you said, doesn't have to be a person. It could be a thing like an animal. It could be the wind, an act of Kodesh Baruch Hu. And it doesn't have to be a single person. It could be a group of people, like two people fighting, okay, and then hitting this third person. So there's always a actor, and whenever you have any case anywhere, you have to define who the actor is, who's doing the activity. The second thing that you have to define is what action he's doing, the pula that he's doing. Okay, so in this case, in Eved Ivri, let's say the actor is the Adon, someone who wants to buy an Eved Ivri. It could be a woman Adon also. We're not taking any position. That's why I kept it in gray. It's not written in the pasuk who he is. But let's say he's an Adon for simplicity's sake. Now he's doing a pula. What's the pula he's doing? He's doing a pula of kinyan. He's buying. Okay. Now who is the hefel? Who is that activity impacting upon? Who's the object of that activity? So the object of the activity is the Eved Ivri, right? So he's the object of the activity. And this last box is what I call mischabrim. Mischabrim means conditions about the case. So for instance, in this first case, it said, Ki tikneh Eved Ivri. So we don't know who the pool is. It's someone, it's probably a Jewish man, we could presume. He's doing the action of kinyan, of acquiring. Who is that action? The hefel is an Eved Ivri, right? And then, in the first pasuk, it doesn't tell us about any mischabrim. It just says generally, when you buy the Eved Ivri, it gives us two mishpatim. One, sheishanim yavod, the maximum amount of time for this Eved Ivri is 6 years. And in the 7th year, he goes out free. Okay, during the Shemitah year, that's why the Jubilee, you know, those big Jubilee festivals, you know, because that's when the Eved would go out free. So that was the Yovel. And again, just interesting that in Greek, when they translated, the Greeks didn't have a Yud, so the Yud's turned into a J. So that's why we say Jubilee when it's Yovel. I mean, they had to make those. Anyway, whatever it is, that's not important. The point here is that we have now a chart where we're going to identify in all the Pesukim who the Poel is, what Pa'ul is doing, and who the Hefel, who's receiving the Pa'ula. And then we have Miskabrim that says, this Eved Ivri, it depends whether he comes in alone or if he comes in with Isha, right? So if he comes in alone, the din is going to be he goes out alone. If he comes in with a wife, then he goes out with his wife. Okay, so again, in all these actors, we're going to have to know about them. So here, all of a sudden, the actor was his wife, right? So the last time we said, wait a minute, how did he get a wife? Who is this wife? Is it a wife that his master gave him? Or is it a wife that he came in with? Okay, and this indeed is a, Rashi explains, no, this is talking about his wife. How does Rashi know it? He always has to bring a proof. So he brings a proof that is talking about his own wife. Okay, now, here the next pasuk says, if im adonav yiten lo isha, you see, so the first pasuk here can't be talking about the wife that the master gave, because the second part of the pasuk talks about the wife that is given to him, and he has children. So then the first thing is the isha v'yoledeha tiyela adanah. He loses those children, and the second one is he goes out alone. Okay, so again, when we analyze this, and this is where we're going to integrate Tfunos and Higayon, we always have to say who the actors are and under what conditions are we speaking about. We have to have now, we'll have, go ahead.
In this chart, your blank boxes for the no-say, the Poel, the Haf'ala, and the Hefel are all the same going down until you change it?
Yeah, let's go. You see, I kept it all the same. Here we go. Let's try here, for instance. Here. Here's Karen Shore, right? Well, we just know it's a shore. It says, Ki yigach shore es shore, es ish o isha, right? So who is the Poel here? Well, the Poel is we know, the shore, right? He's the Poel. So I put the Poel as the shore. Okay?
Right. So why did you put the shore as the Hefel also?
Excuse me?
Why did you put the shore as the Hefel also?
Because I didn't want, now here's my problem in doing the chart. The way that the words are written are not exclusively in this pattern. For instance, it says Ki yigach shor. Shor is the Poel. It doesn't say Shor shehu yigach ish v'isha. You with me? Right. So that's why this is a little blue here, because really this shore.
You'll be able to read a pasuk from right to left.
Exactly. But my idea is to be as unintrusive in the Pesukim as possible. Okay. Now that's going to cause difficulty, like here, right? Because the pasuk wasn't written Shor ki yigach ish v'isha, right?
Right.
The Seder. So that's going to be the difficulty in doing this. Now, since you said that, we'll go to the last phrase. After we do this, and this is the chart I'm going to be working with, because we're always going to be identifying the Poel, the Pula, the Hefel, and any Mischabrim, and of course the dinim that apply to each one. Then we're going to go to the next stage. What's the next stage? Okay.
So what did you do with the pasuk? I don't remember which pasuk it was. There was one pasuk that was just the whole thing was one big no-say. So you just left it as...
Well, we'll see if it's a no-say. Well, no, I broke the no-say into its parts.
All the pool and the hefel, but it's not going to be in the Meschabrim.
Exactly. Sometimes it may be and sometimes not.
Right. It could be the Mischaber.
Okay.
Oh, the Mischaber is part of the Nosei. It could be, okay, right, I see.
Those are conditions. So I don't know. Sometimes it could be unconditional. For instance, Iyoun Chumash, right? It says
Right.
here and over here. It says here. Whoops. How do I get this camera in here? Here it says umaka. Here's the pasuk. You see, maka ishu meis shumas. Here's a condition though. Okay, happens to be the next pasuk has the condition. Okay, that's a condition. But first it started with a categorical statement, and that really was a whole pasuk, right?
Right.
So here, when it says "Vashir lo tzidav Elokim ana biyado," so we presume it's the same poel, pula, and hefel, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. So, but my aim here is let the Torah express itself, and lo and behold, we saw last week the Torah definitely talks in terms of nosei and nasu, or nosei and mishpat, right? That's definitely. Now we are going to go to the next level, which is to add the poel, the pula, the hefel, and the mischaberim, and again, trying the best we can. Of course, the Torah can do what it wants to do. Kadosh Baruch Hu can speak the way it wants to speak. But it's interesting, anytime we see that one of these boxes are not filled in, we have to say, hey, well, who is the poel here? How come it's not mentioned? And lo and behold, we're going to see very interesting things come out from that observation. So that's the next stage, okay?
Yep.
Now, then there's... Then there's the next, I'm just going to discuss the 24 aspect just so we get it, logical actors, and then the stage. The last stage is this. I call it Torah abstracted. Now I pretty much get rid of the words as much as I can. Okay? So, and I'm also concentrating here on the, I did not talk about Eved Ivri because we're really trying to focus on Nezikin. Okay, so here what I did was first I just made an abstract diagram in these process, which is who is the poel, and in the superscript, what is he doing? Here, and each is doing the pool of makeh, and who is the hifil, the hifil, who's receiving the act, ish, and I put out also here what's happening to him. Okay, and here I just cut out all the words and I said, okay, in this case the poel was a man, the pool was a makkah, the hifil was another man, and the result, the mesubav, was mace. Okay, and now we can. In the second din here, it says ish. It repeats the same case, but now talking about if a man does it b'shogeg. Okay, so the poel is doing it again an ish, but this time it's ritzonis. It's not ritzonis. It's itivis. He doesn't really mean to do that. His tachlis is not to kill the other man, and he's doing the makkah again. The person who's receiving it is another man, and the mesubav of this hitting is death. And here's the mishpat. He has to go to Ari Miklat. Okay. But I look at this by doing it this way and abstracting it to this level. We begin to see pretty interesting things. Okay. We'll first of all look at the change activities here. Okay, why the activities? Why does the poel change? And why does the person who gets the action change? Okay, so here we're able to see in an abstract way, again, the poel, his pula, the person who, is the hefel, is receiving it. again, the poel, the pula, the hefel, and the mesubav. That means the person who is acting, the person who's the object of his act, the result of, again, the activity, the poel, the actor, what act he's doing, the pula. Okay, who's doing that pula, and what's the result of the pula?
Right.
Okay, and then of course we'll have the din on the side. Now, then we'll see all of a sudden how the Torah starts from what we call niske. I change it from maske. Okay, it's really maske technically, but when a man does damage, okay, this is the man doing damage, and we're going to go through all his variations and see.
What is the difference
Go
between
ahead.
the second column, ish, and in the hefel column you also have ish? It looks like
Nothing whatsoever. This really is just a further abbreviation of the whole chart, that's all. It really is just a further abbreviation. I just wanted to abbreviate it even more. Okay, in other words, just talking about the actors. But these two boxes don't add anything to the poel, the pul, the hefel, and the mesubav. Okay, it's just a short way of looking at it. Okay, just more of an abstraction, but it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add any new information. It just makes it in a shorter thing. Now, when we have the information sorted this way, okay, then we're going to ask ourselves the question of which who are the poelim that the Kodesh Baruch Hu talks about, which activities does he talk about, and who is the result. And then we're going to say, well, why, of course, what's missing, that we had to do in stage one, what's missing, and two, why is this the proper order of presentation?
right.
Okay, and now we can see it. I mean, you could just read the Psukim as you are, but here it forces you to put things in logical boxes and then to ask yourself why. So we see here, for instance, the first thing the Kodesh Baruch Hu talks about is murder. Now we're going to notice here that not all these cases are murder. These 3 are murder, right? The first 3.
Right.
This one is not murder. It's just ma'avi ve'imo. But why is it here? Because it has the same death sentence as the murder clause, right? Umachro, okay, has the same. It's here because it has the same result, moshimas. And Makalel has the same result also. And we'll see now, if you read Rashi, he's bothered with why does the Ganav come in between these 2 cases. And now we could see it clearly. Rashi's question just pops out at us. Okay? In this group, in here already, the person doesn't die. Okay? So that's a level down as far as the person who is hit doesn't die, and also there's another level here which is because it's talking about 2 people fighting with each other. We were only talking about 1 person here before, so there was only 1 poel and 1 hefel. Now there's 2 poelim, and they're both fighting. They're participating in the fight, which is another level down. Okay. And the difference is that they don't die. They just hurt each other. Okay? Good. So now we switch, and in the Torah then switches to the Eved, and goes back to killing the Eved or hurting the Eved, giving those 2 dinim, right? And then it goes to a 3rd level, which is when 2 people are instead of the other now, which was case number 5 and 6, they hit a standby, an innocent standby, a victim. Okay, so we notice that the presentation is going from the simple case of 1 person murdering another person, and then just having the side dinim that have the same din. Okay, which is as we said. Okay. but then it moves to two people fighting with each other. Okay, and then finally two people fighting with each other and the innocent bystander that gets hurt.
Right.
Okay, and then it'll talk about the special case of Shane and Evans. So it talks about the principal case, and then it comes along and it talks about Shane and Evans. Okay, so we're going to look at those cases, and we're going to watch the beauty of the Torah's presentation, and that's what the chart represents here. Okay, then we're going to go from the person himself to his property doing damage. Right? There's that famous shore and the boar, you see, and then the Ganav who's going to damage property. Why is he here? Everyone wants to know why is he here. Okay, so we see already by the chart that the victims here are Shvarim, but we have to ask all these questions. Okay, now that we can box the actors in the case and their activities, so now we should be able to appreciate the presentation, and whenever we see something that doesn't seem to be fitting in the presentation, then we can say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't look correct. Right. Okay. Then we go to the last aspect, which was Shomrim. Why is Shomrim the next aspect?
Why is Shomrim? So we went from mace to your property to Showman. Yeah, so it's less direct damages.
That's right. The shomer is not even the mazik. His lack of shmira causes his ganav to come in.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Very interesting. So that's the next level of responsibility. Your first responsibility is the person himself against other people. And the second level of responsibility is the person's property doing damage. Then the next level of responsibility is the person himself doesn't even do the damage. It's someone else. But since he has a key of shmira, he has to watch. So he's going to be responsible for those acts.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
All right. Good. And then the Torah then goes on to onus and mafata. We'll have to explain why that follows, and makshefa, how is that really damage, shachar behema. And again, all the time you're going to have to identify who is the poel, what's his pula, who's it acting upon, and what's the result. And when we don't know an answer to those questions, we're going to have to say, well, yeah, please tell me where do I find that result? Right. And the result is found in Torah Shabbat Peh. That's why it's called inside out, right? Because that's where it's going to, we're going to discover these things. Now, the reason why we do this and why we go to Rashi is because Rashi knows Torah Shabbat Peh, so he's going to now really, if you read Rashi, he brings the sources. He doesn't make things up. Sometimes he says, believe me, sometimes he says, I don't know, but he's a man who knows Torah Shabbat Peh, and he'll tell you what the sources say. Okay? Among other things we studied. All right, so that's basically the level that we would like to get to in looking at the pasuk. The only thing I would like to show you one other thing. You can see there's a lot of work I did on this stuff, but
yeah, boy, just to make this chart.
Yeah, the chart was a lot of work, but it was a great feeling of like discovery, because the Torah is so beautiful in its presentation, and people don't look at it, right? Because we're just this whole you heard in 3 or 4 minutes, and people just don't have the idea really just to look at the presentation. So now let's see that what we're doing here. I want to show you 2 more things. One thing here, okay? Rashi, okay? To show that what we're doing here by talking about the actor and his action and the object of his action is really what's being done by the big people. They just, instead of making a chart, have it all in their head. Okay, so we have to slow down and make sure that we can see it, but here it is. Here's, for instance, Rashi on this Pasuk Yud Beit that says, Maka ish umeis mos yumas, right? Now, the second pasuk he's going to talk about is, there's another pasuk that talks about death that says, Ve'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam mos yumas. Okay, so now right away, if I ask you, who was the poel in the first case? The first case here.
That would be an ish.
Now, you added that in, correct?
Right.
So you have to know, I added it in that it's an ish, maka ish. Now, that's going to be important. We'll see in 1 second, okay? Okay, the pu'ula is the same of haka'ah, of hitting. In the first pasuk, who is the hefel? Who receives that? Excuse me.
So in the first one, it's an ish.
Yeah, and in the second pasuk,
it doesn't say, but it says kol. Oh, it does say. It says kol nefesh adam.
Oh, you see, shinui lashon, right?
Right.
So what's that shinui lashon going to do? Okay, so now let's look at Rashi.
Right.
Let's look at Rashi. Okay, so first of all, Rashi says, Maki Shumes, he says, Kama Kesuvin Nemra Bapasha, Rotzchim. He says there's many Pesukim that said about murder. Uma Shebiyadi Leforish Lama Bo Kula Meforish. What is in my hand to explain about these Pesukim, I will explain. A very interesting statement. In other words, Rashi doesn't dream. He says, if I have a source, then I'm going to tell you about it. If I have no source or a proof, then I won't tell you because I can't do it. So he says here, he brings Sanhedrin. It says there, Maka Ishu Meis, it's Sanhedrin, Ma'am and Nemar. It's a question in Sanhedrin. Why do we need two Pesukim? I mean, these dinim, if I ask you, again in my abstraction, you just have a man killing another man, and the law is Mos Yumas, right? So when you abstract the statement, they say exactly the same thing, correct?
Right.
So we know our first rule in Darkei HaTalmud is no repetition, correct?
Right. Right.
Okay. So everything has to have a chiddush. Well, what's the chiddush here? They're saying exactly the same thing. So here we go in Sanhedrin. Lefi shenemar ve'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam mos yumas. Shemea ani hakor below misa. Look at that. If I just had the pasuk that said ve'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam mos yumas, I would say it's any type of hitting. In other words, even a little.
Misa, even a
exactly.
Just a wound, or even that maybe doesn't even need a wound.
So we say Shamea ani hakor below misa. So if I would have just said kiyaka, I would have said any type of hit. It doesn't happen. The result happened that he died. Very good. But how powerful again in the pu'ula of hakor? In the pu'ula of hakor, how powerful was the hit?
Right.
You see. Now we want to know the kamas of the pu'ula. You see, I'm trying to integrate the higayon.
Yeah.
We want to know the kamas of the pu'ula. Okay, so here, since it doesn't spell it out, the Gemara says, if it doesn't spell it out, it means any type of hit, right? So it says tamaloma makaish umeis. Oh, we didn't cop that one. You see, we didn't cop that. You see, veish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam. Now we don't know the mesubav. We don't know the mesubav, do we? In the first case,
right.
In this case.
No.
But here in this one says Maki Shumes, it does tell us the Mesubav. Right?
Right, right.
So you see how that hole is left out in the chart?
Right.
And someone's looking at it and says that hole is left out purposely to tell us a Chiddush. Why is that called? I just said hakor. That's not really the deal here. because in this pasuk, see, I made the wrong diuk myself. It says here it says ish ki kol nefesh. It doesn't say the mesubav. That's why it means hakor, even if it's a hakor that doesn't cause misa. In other words, the first one said maka ishu mace. There was he hit him in such a way that he died. But
Right.
the second one says he just hit him. It doesn't say he was strong enough to die. So the diuk then is Talmud Loma maka ishu mace ein chayav ela ba'akor shel misa. The kamas of the pula has to be so strong that it could have caused death. If he hit him with a broom, let's say, that couldn't cause death, so that would not be liable for the death penalty. Ve'im ne'amar, if it just said the pasuk maka ish umeis, v'lo ne'amar ve'ish ki yaker, look at that. What did we add here in this pasuk between ish ki yaker? Hayiti yoma eno chayev ad sheyaker ish.
You would think if you hit a ish.
Right.
Right.
Akot isho ve'et akot en menayin Talmud Loma ki yikeh kol nefesh.
Right. So the first one is maka ish, but mace says only ish. You would think only ish.
Yeah. Only if he hit a man and the man died. Right?
Right. Rather, yeah. So ish ki yaka kol nefesh. Right.
So the what we call the hefel over there, the object of the act, is not written in the first pasuk. It just says maka ish. What did he maka? Where's the hefel? Oh, excuse me, maka ish umeis. Am I right? Yes, that's how they're learning. It's maka ish. It's not, I thought it was. No, that's another interesting thing. I thought it meant
maka ish.
No, that's
so
correct.
The ish. He's saying the ish is the.
The ish is
Makeh.
the hefel.
Who is the makeh? The one who is doing it.
There is no. Yeah, we don't know who's doing it.
It's not stated.
It's not stated who's doing it. We only know who the victim was.
Right. Right.
So the victim is a man, so you're only chayav if you kill a man.
Right.
That's why we need the second pasuk that says kol nefesh. Right?
Yes.
Very nice. So I just want to demonstrate here that this chart that we're producing, which is really coming out of the text itself, and we're just to put labels on it from, say, from Derek Tunis, we just put labels on it because those are the halakim, those are the parts in this activity. This Shinui language, or anytime there's a change or anytime there's something left out, we have to say, hey, why is it left out? And here it's even worse because the whole pasuk is repeated. Okay, as far as the abstraction, and that's a very important thing, I must emphasize that also. You know, in Higayon and Tunos, the Ramchal tells us we have to abstract the meaning of the statement. Okay,
right.
But you have to be careful because the way that the statement was presented is very, very important. And if you abstract and place things inside that weren't said, you have to be very careful.
Right.
Okay, because that Shinui language between one statement and the next is a very, very important thing. We'll get that in 1 second, but let's just finish this. Okay, so that's what it says. So it says here, if it only said maka ish, so the victim would only be an ish, right? So that's why it says kol nefesh adam. That's the diuk. Okay, let's go further. Va'od ilu nema maka ish shemei ani afilu katon shehakor v'harog yehei chayav. Now, what is this diuk? You see, if it just said maka ishu mace, mos yumas, how would the Gemara learn?
But again, it doesn't say makeh ish who is the perpetrator. So you could
Exactly.
have the perpetrator as anybody.
Now, isn't this also interesting? We have to learn from this. The lack of a perpetrator, the Gemara is learning as meaning anybody.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Why why say such a thing, right? It's in the learning. I mean, why not say it's a man? Why not say, why does the Gemara presume that the lack of a subject means any subject?
Right.
Okay? Why didn't it just push in like we want to do? We want to push in, oh, it's a man hitting another man. Well, you see that the Gemara says, because of the juxtaposition of these two things, so we see the Chiddush. Tamid loma ve'ish ki yakeh v'lo katan shehako. Okay? So the second pasuk, by saying the perpetrator, okay, where's that perpetrator here? Here's that perpetrator. Ve'ish ki yakeh, it fills in the perpetrator, comes to limit what this pasuk would have had us think. We thought that even a katan that kills a person would be liable to death penalty. The answer is no. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Va'od ki yakar kol nefesh adam. If it would have just said a person who kills any nefesh adam, so then I would say afil nefilim b'mashma, even if he did an abortion, right? Or let's say not an abortion actually, but that's a whole other problem. But the child was aborted and still had some breath, and he killed him. You think that'd be also under the din mos yumas? We're not saying that it's not punishable. We're talking about punishment of mos yumas. The answer is Talmud lomar ish she'eno chayav ad sheka ben kaima hara'ui liot ish. See that? Right.
Alive, a sustainable life.
A sustainable life. Okay, so I brought this Rashi, and there's many other Rashis here. We can go through each Rashi now and understand what he's filling in. I would like to now bring you a general rule that I found in Rashi here, which is very, very exciting. Okay. And here we go. Just go up here. Nope. I made these little links. Okay. This is what I call filling in the gaps, right? That's what we're doing. We're identifying. We are identifying the poel, who's doing the act, what's the pool, and who's the result of the act. Okay, and who's the object of the act, and what's the result. So here, in the case of v'ganav ish u'mochro, okay, Rashi brings the Mechilta. Why do we need this pasuk? Ganav ish u'mochro. We have another pasuk. Lefi shenemar ki yamotza ish ganav nefesh me'echav. When we find a person who stole a person from his brothers, right? So again, ein li ela ish ganav nefesh. Isha atumtam or drugnish ganav menayim. We only know the poel, right? It says, the poel says in this pasuk, Kimotzav ish ganav.
Right.
When you find the person who stole, okay, it says ish. So how do you know about a woman? Talmud lona v'ganav ish u'mochro. That's the first ganav ish. Again, the subject was not there, and by the lack of a subject, it's a ribui.
To include everybody.
Very important, right? Very important little rules here. You see, when you're medactic on the Pesukim, we have so much material that we read so much and we don't stop to think. If we would stop to think and learn the rules that Rashi is now presenting to us from the Gemara, then we would have the ability to do this ourselves, and if not ourselves, at least to predict what was going to happen. And that's called consciously learning. Okay? So it says, Ein li ela ish ganav nefesh. Now, we only know if an ish who stole the nefesh, isha, otumtam, or androgynous, sheganav menayim, tamid loma, v'ganav ish u'mochro.
Oh, so there it doesn't say who the poel is.
Yes.
Right, because v'ganav ish, the ish there is the victim.
Let's see. I don't have it myself. Let me say it again. It says like this. Ein li ela ish ganav nefesh. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the one we just did, right?
Right. No, the one
Exactly.
before.
Yeshe
No,
Talmud.
ish.
What? Yeah.
No, you have
So,
to.
so here,
The gun of ish
yeah, here's two
machar.
pasukim. This one and this pasuk.
So the gun of ish
Okay.
machar, the ish and the ganav is the victim. The kima say ish gainev, the ish in that pasuk is the perpetrator.
Exactly.
So in
So,
one pasuk it says who the perpetrator is, but it doesn't say who the victim is. In one pasuk, no, well it says nefesh, right? So in one pasuk it says who the perpetrator is, doesn't say who the victim is. The other pasuk it says who the victim is, doesn't say who the perpetrator is.
good. So here, Ainli Ela Ish Gun of Nefesh. So that was the first one we said, because someone took that, you find an Ish that's gun of a Nefesh. How do you know these other people are involved also in that din? So it says, V'gun of Ish Chumochro, and it doesn't have the subject there. Okay? Now, Ulefish Nemakan V'gun of Ish, now here it says V'gun of Ish in Mochro, Ainli Ela Gun of Ish. Now we only know someone who steals a man. What happens if someone steals a woman?
Right.
How do we know that they chayiv? Talmud Lomar, the gun of nefesh, switches from ish to nefesh, which is a broader term. Okay?
Right. Right.
Now, how do we know a cotton and all those things? We now, in our mind, once we have the list of poelim and hefelim, the objects and the actors and the object of receiving the act, so now we can fill them in and ask a question. What would happen with an evid? What would happen with a with a katan? What would happen with a and that's what the Gemara does. Okay, so there's a standard list of people that no matter what halacha you're talking about, we should be able to now write a chart starting with, let's say, who knows, the Kohen Gadol going to a Kohen, to a Levi, to a Yisrael, and Yisrael will have an Ish, an Isha, then we have the Ben and the Bat, we have the Katan, you see, and then we'll create a list, and then no matter what halacha we're in, we're going to have to ask you, could you please fill out this chart for us?
Right.
Pretty exciting, no? And that'll be a conscious activity.
Hello? 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 Hello?